So recently, TSM announced that they would be doing a six-man roster with ADC being subbed out between WildTurtle and Doublelift. And I just think ADC's playstyle doesn't warrant a sub to be swapped between these two players. Um, Particularly because I think ADC is brain dead, and a lot of other pros have said this. I mean, Skara and formerly I'm a Cutie Pie have stated this over and over that it's kind of a brain dead role, and mostly it just relies on mechanics itself in order to be able to function within your team. And I also think that there is a huge chasm between the skill of Doublelift and WildTurtle. I think Doublelift is a far better player, and I think he is a smarter player than what he was before, especially within CLG. And it seems like WildTurtle is stuck within a old style of ADC, in being that he doesn't input enough to his team in order to manipulate exactly his team macro decisions, and he's kind of playing that whole ADC brain dead type style. Versus Doublelift is actually contributing a lot to his team in form of shot calling, and it also, more importantly, works better for TSM as a team. Maybe WildTurtle would be better in a situation with High, to where he could be commanded to do certain tasks around the map. And I think with the TSM shifting of shot calling, I think Doublelift is just better in every metric. And to add to that, Doublelift has better stats in 2017 in virtually every single category, and he was on a losing team. I mean, let me pull this up here for you guys. So right there, bottom of the screen, you can see that he virtually has a better stat in every category, with a 33% win rate, a Doublelift having a 66% win rate. I mean, you can see kill participation is up higher for Doublelift. Death share is lower. You have gold at 10 minutes higher for Doublelift, and XP at 10 minutes differentiation higher, and CS per minute at 10 also higher, or CS difference at 10 higher with a 9.8. So I mean, all of these metrics, they're basically, I mean, besides a KDA, but that might be indicative to losing and winning in that situation. But that kind of just shows a little bit of why Doublelift is a better player. And to add to this whole ADC sub situation, there aren't any major teams right now that are currently implementing this. And I think more specifically, it creates a problem between the ADC and the support, in that it breaks up synergy. And in other roles, this is different because it breaks up synergy macro wise, but with a ADC, it breaks up synergy micro-wise as well. Things that you do within the lane. If you're going to trade at a specific time, if your support is going to roam and ward, how do you act within the lane, and how do you know what your ADC is going to do within that lane? And that's why teams don't have support subs as well. Because I mean, the only team that did this last year was Samsung Galaxy, with Core JJ and Wraith, and it kind of gives evidence to that Core JJ. He only played 3 games in LCK Summer 2016, so it kind of just goes to show, and he lost those games too. So it just shows that the breakup of synergy is a real problem when it comes to bot lane. And whether you do it with the support or with the ADC, it's gonna have kind of the same result. So it's going to affect the micro decisions of these players, because they have to play with each other within that lane, particularly within the laning phase. And it's this situation isn't like Easy Hoon and Faker or Impact and Ray. I mean, Impact, he plays tanks exceptionally well, and he's known for that. He's known for playing defensive. He's known for basically not losing his lane, and sometimes he may very well snowball and win his lane. And I mean, we could just see his plays during summer split where he was getting tower dove yet somehow turning it around. And then you have Array, who is known for playing carries very well and is one of the best in his regions for carry top laners. And it creates a dynamic to where if you play against Ray, either you roll over that lane and get an advantage through your team comp, or you lose trying to fight carry versus carry because you aren't going to beat him. He's the best in the region at playing carries. So you don't want to go for that 1v1 outplay, that every Yasuo seems to do. So, and only top international play can disrupt this subsystem, and that Ray then doesn't become the best at carry top laners. There are other people that can compete against him. There's a Huni that can compete against him. There's people on EDG, on KT that can compete against him. So there are other places, within the whole world scope that can compete against these guys, and that's what breaks down the subsystem. But in terms of just region only specific, it actually works quite well, and hopefully you build up these players during that time to where that they can compete on the world stage. And to go back on the Easy Hoon and Faker thing, I mean, everyone knows that Easy Hoon was really exceptional on control mages, mostly known for his Azir. And it helped during a time when the meta was transitioned over to more control mages, and the patches before had been more assassin oriented. So Faker had to catch up and play these control mages and practice them. And Easy Hoon had already had a great understanding for these champions like Azir and Victor. So in that sense, having a sub does help tremendously when a meta changes, and that is even true with the ADC role as well. And adaptation is a big plus when it comes to having a sub, but that's also why you have a positional coach and an analyst. Why instead have an ADC sub when you could just have a positional coach, especially in terms of the skill difference between a WildTurtle and a Doublelift? It just doesn't make much sense to me. And to say that it helps both get better, I don't think is a very solid argument, because you already have one person that is better in most every metric measurable. And so if you start at that base, someone higher and then someone lower, if they both progress at the same rate, that other person is just going to stay higher. That is to say, if things are static, which of course in the real world it isn't, but your chances of having that person that already has a higher, floor skill, he's going to stay better most likely. And if one is better at both styles of supportive and hyper carry, there's really not a reason for the other guy on the team. And the other negative to go back to is the support has to change his style. The team has to change their style. So it's not only a macro level that you have to change, it's a micro level as well, because it's ADC. You have to play with someone else in the lane, and when it's a solo laner, only the team macro has to change. The micro doesn't matter because they can do whatever they want in their solo lanes or within their jungle route. It doesn't really matter because it's not influencing another person specifically at that point. It's only influencing the macro decisions of everyone. You don't have to decide when to take a trade with your partner because you have no partner in those lanes. And so to go on a side note, I don't want to dig too far into this, but MSI kind of proved the point, with this recent 2017 MSI split, uh, is that WildTurtle seems to have a disconnect with the team currently, and whether that is because of WildTurtle himself or if it's because of TSM as a whole, it really doesn't matter. It just seems that WildTurtle's style isn't meshing well with TSM, as a team. And so when you have something like this disconnect where they were so used to Doublelift being in the team and being such a voice, and now you have WildTurtle, who is a old school ADC player who basically you need to temper his aggression. It becomes this different dynamic of how you play these team fights out, and that can sometimes be a hindrance. So I don't think WildTurtle is the correct choice. I don't think that ADC sub is even a real thing, and I think that WildTurtle is a good player, and I'm not saying he's bad at all. I'm just saying I think he's worse than Doublelift, which Doublelift is a phenomenal player. It's not a shame to be worse than Doublelift. A lot of players are worse than Doublelift, and to lock him as a ADC sub who I think won't really be used a whole lot, once they realize that it's not going to really work out. It prevents him from joining another team, and it prevents a really good ADC from improving, another team's roster. And my assumption is that eventually, before the roster locks are determined, that WildTurtle is probably going to move to another team, before the end of the split, so that he can help out another team. So all in all, I think TSM's roster, a 6-man roster, isn't going to go according to plan. They're going to realize this, and possibly it might even come up with some losses within the whole split, which may be a detriment to their standings. So I don't think this roster move is a good idea, and generally I don't think an ADC sub of swapping them in and out and continuously for an advantage is even a real thing, and I don't think TSM should do this. So those are my thoughts. Also, yeah, got the new layout, guys. So check me out on Twitter, or subscribe, whatever, and keep it real. All right, see you guys next time.